Welcome my friends back to Marvel Snap. Today we are here with Makkari, the Eternals speedster. All of her ability details, her best friends, synergies, counters, and at the end, is she going to be worth your hard-earned cash keys? What kind of decks can we begin testing her with? All of that and more. Right now we dive in 3-4 stat line. The 3 doesn't really matter for when you are going to be able to play her, but it does come in handy for a key special synergy that we are going to break down in great detail. The ability is, after the turn, runs from your hand to a random location if possible. So we're getting free power. Free power is always great, right? Right? Well, it actually takes us into an interesting conversation on the value of a card draw and the value of a deck slot. Are you hoping to get more or less than 3 power out of any of the cards in your deck? And how much does dropping to a random location hurt this card? I think it hurts the card quite a bit. There can easily be a position where Makkari is going to go to a location that you are already giving up to your opponent. They were winning by so much you were choosing not to contest. Or on the flip side, Makkari could pile on to a location as overkill that you were already winning and your opponent was then shifting their focus to other spots. So there's a lot of times where that 4 power, just because of what lane she drops into, is not actually going to influence the ultimate outcome of the match. And so we're going to have to find some other synergies here to really juice her up and make her have a greater impact, because just as a 4 cost dropping to a random location, I don't think she justifies getting run in your decks. This card was close. If her power was too high, we could have seen her just in every single deck because everybody wanted this free power, but I think she's right on the line, which is the right spot to land. Second dinner, thank you for making this an interesting conversation. Here is the best friends list. First up, Surfer, obviously. Finally, a 3 cost card that seems bespoke, made for a Surfer synergy. The Surfer deck is already doing a pretty good job at filling up the board to be able to get these mass board-wide buffs, but Makkari is just going to pile onto that. The more cards that are getting buffed, the better this Surfer deck is looking, and if Makkari herself is looking more like a 3-6, a 3-7, because of some other effects that we'll get into, suddenly she is way more punchy and way more valuable. Quick shout out to the Electro and the Ramp synergy. Makkari is going to be a way to get power to the board around Electro's play restriction and Sandman's play restriction. Those two are basically always getting run together. And because the ramp decks don't normally play through their entire hand, I think Makkari is going to be an easy inclusion just to get that little bit of extra tempo to help juice up their game plan. And then we have Crystal. Crystal has been really hard to utilize because that effect is reciprocal, and giving draw to your opponent is usually used just as well on their side as it is on yours. But here, if we have a deck where Makkari is potentially in there, then hitting the board a little bit more consistently, and we have now a whole suite of 3 cost cards that are all going to get additional buffs from other synergies that we have baked in, and then we can add Fastos on top of that next week. Stay tuned next week as we're going to be, I believe, breaking down Fastos, who seems like is going to be really a package deal to really unlock the full potential of Makkari. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited at the possibilities, my friends. But right now we're evaluating just Makkari and just Makkari in a vacuum. Later on, I'll talk about the potential connection to Fastos. We do have him called out here, but again, in the final evaluation of Makkari, I will give a breakdown of if you are guaranteeing yourself getting Fastos, how valuable is Makkari? If not, which one should you focus on? All of that. But right here are all of the deck buff and hand buff cards. Sure, Chavez is here as well, I suppose, but as a 1 cost, she barely bears mentioning. Okoye buffing Makkari to a 5, Fastos taking that to a 7, and then Nakia taking it to an 8 because Makkari jumps at the end of the turn, which gives you a window to provide a buff with the Nakia. That's powerful, especially with the Surfer buff coming in later to take Makkari to a 10. Oh my gosh. The downside to all of these deck and hand buff cards has often been that it becomes really challenging to play all of your buffed cards, and so then you're not making full use of these cards' abilities. But because Makkari is coming in for free, it's looking a lot easier to leverage these abilities and get the full impact of them. So I'm actually pretty excited. This is an archetype that I feel like Snap has danced around. We've had blatantly overpowered versions of all of these cards, but in their current iterations, they've really struggled finding a place. And now with the Makkari, they could finally have one. And also Fastos, I just think is insane. He is going to be awesome. And it's Nakia and Okoye that I'm a little more questioning on, but they definitely have strong synergies with the Makkari. Final suite of cards here, shifting gears, lockdown, and cards that take advantage off of early tempo. Seems really awesome if Makkari drops in early, and then we stack our efforts on that lane, cap it off with a Pro X, and then shift with a dominant card to be able to win that final lane. That sounds awesome. Or watch Makkari drop in. She could drop to the stormed location. We want to call out that if possible quotation on her ability. That means she is able to add herself to a flooded location. She is able to add herself to, say, the kiln or the vault. She will not be able to add herself to Professor X's location because he's preventing cards from being added there. I believe there's one location as well that prevents cards from being added to that location in like the middle turns. It's open on 1, 2, and 6. But those are currently the only effects that would prevent Makkari from landing on a location. Finally, the Alioth. This could be in conjunction with the Professor X or the Storm, or it could be just played on its own, really taking advantage off of a position where you've made sure that you have initiative. You're flipping first to get the most impact on that big bad cloud. Alioth has struggled to find his place in the meta recently, but just any elements of guaranteeing early tempo could put him back into the meta's sights. Alright, now we have the trap cards. These are cards that feel like they are close to having synergies with Makkari, or they certainly do have synergies with Makkari. I just don't think that the overall game plan of the list is going to be viable. First up, Umbaku, I'm sorry. We're doing the same thing as Makkari. We're jumping in for free. It's just Umbaku is so weak himself, he's not worth running in conjunction with the Makkari. It would be funny. I'm sure someone will try, but I don't think it's really worth it. Can we get like a 3-power Umbaku? That would be... I don't think anybody's going to be crying about that. And then Cerebro and Moon Girl. C4s. You got the Makkari dropping in for free. You got the Moon Girl, also a 4, giving me 2 free Makkaris. All buff targets for Cerebro. That sounds awesome. But the Cerebro 4 game plan is just so weak at the moment. This is not where we want to look. I probably have to test this a little bit on stream, but... I'm not looking forward to the cubes I'm going to lose, but we'll make the meme happen, and you can watch me take the L on this one before testing it yourselves, guys. And so now we get the counter synergies and the enemy cards. We don't want to run Iron Lad with Makkari because Makkari is just a dead hit. I feel like that is fairly self-explanatory. Then we've got the junk representatives. You could equally put Green Goblin up here. These cards, the junk game plan is trying to capitalize on locations that you are filling up or close to filling up, and Makkari, because she's dropping into a random location, could easily play into that and make it easier for the junk player to be able to execute their game plan. Then at the bottom here, we've got the control cards that would love to chew up our Makkari strategies. Shadow King, if we are playing the hand buff, deck buff kind of archetype, is going to be able to strip all those away and take away all that value we've tried to develop. Cannonball Feasts, when our side of the board is cluttered up, and Black Widow provides clutter and it denies another card draw, which could really pinch our playing opportunities. If we've taken the Widow's Bite and then Makkari's dropped in for free, our deck is going to, or our hand is going to be looking really thin. So you could put Black Bolt up here as well, but he's basically invisible in the current meta, but could also be a serious detriment if we are trying to utilize Makkari. With all of this in mind, where does she ultimately land? Hero or zero? And man, I have talked myself in circles around this card, but here we go, and I do feel confident in this. Makkari's getting a 0 from me at a mere 1 key value. This is effectively my star rating, 1 out of 4. I was actually really high on this card when the data mine first released. I was like, but 3 power is enough to swing things. We want this. I think I'm going to try and run this in so many different decks, but as I keep on breaking down all of those friend cards, as I look through that list of options, to put it politely, they're all off meta picks. Even if Makkari unlocks some kind of amazing synergy to bring them up, when you don't draw Makkari, you're in a B tier deck and you're going to be floundering. So this Surfer synergy doesn't feel like it's going to be enough to really supercharge the list. It's one of these I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just don't think that I will be. If you are a Silver Surfer specialist, you're going to still want to grab this card. And if you are guaranteed going all in for Fastos, I would actually elevate the priority on Makkari to 2 keys. If you're only picking one out of the 2, definitely go Fastos. 100% take Fastos over Makkari. If you can get both. That's going to really unlock the potential of both. I think the developers designed them understanding that they were releasing in back-to-back weeks, and that's how they wanted things to play out. What's really interesting is that the rest of the cache for Makkari is amazing. X23, if you don't have X23, still go in on this cache because she's an evergreen in this amazing Destroy deck that has really stood the test of time. Gladiator, great card, slipping a little in the meta. There's a world where if you have X23 but don't have Gladiator, you still pass on this cache. It depends on how many resources you have to go around in general. So that one's a little bit up in the air, but if you do grab him, you're going to really love having him in your deck building arsenal. Let's take you to my starter decks, and here we've got our Surfer list. Man, making the cut on this list is so hard because there's just amazing utility cards all across the 3-cost price point. This is where I want to start. This is going all in on the deck buff, hand buff archetype. We're running the Abs Man to get multiplicative reveals of either Surfer or Brood, maybe Nakia. Crystal and Magic is going to make this list so consistent. I'm actually pretty excited to see how far we can stretch the Okoye and Nakia buffs. And once we get Fastos, man, this deck is going to get unlocked. Stay tuned for when we're upgrading our deck here. We're actually choosing to cut Sarah, who's been a mainstay in this list, in favor of Shang. I personally am calling it that it's Shang's time to come back, but that's also obviously a flex slot. We could run a number of different options here to be able to adapt to our meta pocket. What I've been seeing is some juicy Shang targets. That's what I'm going to run, but leave yourself open in that spot to be able to tech around. The Chavez, of course, also an awesome flex slot, and Okoye and Nakia are flex slots, but that's also what I'm trying to bake into the identity of the deck. We'll see how far we carry it, and if we stick with both, or if we end up cutting one, or both, which could easily be the case. Something like a Nova Killmonger package has also always been excellent. A lot of things that you can tweak around on a Surfer deck. The other list that I think is more interesting to me is the Alioth Ms. Marvel Lockdown deck. The Marvelous Alioth was something that I played to death back when Ms. Marvel first released, and I think that Makkari can slot right in. Now this does open up a little bit of a puzzle box, because if Makkari and Storm are paired, we don't get the Marvel buff. I still think we run Ms. Marvel and that we just try and outthink it, and that we still try and plan around our positioning to get the maximum value. Having Makkari drop in for free, I'm actually trying to leverage as an advantage to guarantee we're hitting the Marvel buffs. We've got Crossbones, who can capitalize on early tempo, winning a location. The Pro X, I mean, we could see a world where Makkari drops in, we double down with Crossbones, lock it up with Pro X, and then roll into the Gamora plus whatever other tech we need to be able to seize the advantage. The Alioth here also really capitalizing on the early tempo that Marvel and all these other cards can provide. Professor X takes a little bit slower approach, a more guaranteed locking in approach. The Claw guaranteed to still give us the buffs even if that unique cost is broken up, which would break the Ms. Marvel. And yeah, the Alioth Gamora, just go tall or break their abilities. Super fun, and Alioth being able to protect the Ms. Marvel from, say, rogues and enchantresses has always been a awesome trick finish for this list. And it's been pretty reliable for me in the past, so I'm very excited to revisit and see how we can tune this one up. I don't think it's fully refined yet, but we will get there. So there is Makkari. Join in when she releases. We'll be streaming on YouTube and Twitch to test her out. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed anything in my analysis. Till next time, thank you guys for watching. Keep on snapping.